Hello everyone, welcome back to the best place for the best takes. I'm Benjamin Cure. This is the Benjamin Cure Show on a Monday in which we have so much to discuss. I don't know if I can cover everything that I want to today, but I'm going to try. Some basketball on deck later in the show, a special guest interview with FIU baseball player, arguably their best baseball player if you look at his statistics last year, Ryne Guida. He's going to be joining the show because of a very special surprise that if you follow me on Instagram, you may already know about. I'll talk about it later in the show. But first, let's get to the night, the game of the night, even though it took place midday. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens. That was the Super Bowl. I said it on Wednesday on my podcast with Brianna Henschel for the win. That was going to be whoever won that game was going to go on to win the big game because those two teams had the better quarterbacks. And I truly do believe that the Super Bowl is going to be won by the best quarterback in the league. It's going to end up being Patrick Mahomes. Spoiler alert, I won't keep you waiting for another 2 weeks like other shows will. I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. But before we get started, what if I told you I predicted this exact outcome on November 17th of 2023? What if I told you that? Would you believe me? Going through TikTok yesterday, didn't even realize this. I was looking at old comments and people were tagging me in the comments of an old post saying, Ben, you said this. And I was like, did I? Because I say a lot of different things over the course of the year, but I did in fact predict this. And once I saw it, I was like, I have to make one of these TikToks, maybe a little bit cringy. I thought it was very cool because I don't normally curse on this show. I predicted that shit down to a T. So let's take a look. Let's listen to it together because this was one of my proudest moments by far. What if I told you I made this exact prediction on November 17th, 2023? All of it. The Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl, the Ravens winning the AFC North but not being quite good enough to beat the Chiefs, and maybe the Chiefs winning back-to-back Super Bowls. On November 17th, the NFL world was shocked by the news that Joe Burrow would be out for the remainder of the season with a hand injury.
That was crazy.
This led many people across the league to speculate about what the NFL playoffs and the rest of the season would look like without Joe Burrow being in the mix. And I nailed every single one of my predictions in that video.
I'm thinking Ravens win that division. It feels like a Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid repeat year. Their defense is lights out this year. They've been amazing. Ravens are a good team, but I don't think they're better than the Chiefs in a head-to-head matchup. This screams, if anything, Chiefs having a much easier road to the Super Bowl this year and probably winning it.
I called that shit down to a T. I told you the Chiefs defense was going to be the unit that I believed carried them this year. They were so good. That secondary played such clean, disciplined, and smart football. Spags really put out the defensive game plan of a lifetime. They pressured Lamar Jackson, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in my next story. But for now, I want to focus on Patrick Mahomes because now Patrick Mahomes finds himself in the same conversation as Tom Brady. And this is something that the league is very grateful for. The NFL and Roger Goodell, they know that looking forward, they have something that other leagues like the NBA simply do not. So right now, according to the 33rd Team, great publication out there, I believe ran by Mike Tannenbaum is the owner. He is now he's an ESPN personality, previously an NFL general manager, but his team put out these statistics. Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, first 6 years starting, almost identical, but Mahomes gets the nod in every single one of the categories except Super Bowl rings, which he has a chance to tie this season. Now, I have always, my entire life, been a very big Tom Brady fan. In a time when it was not popular to be, certainly with friends who were Miami Dolphins fans growing up in Miami, that rivalry in the AFC East, being called a bandwagon fan and whatnot, I have always been a fan of Tom Brady and his greatness. And I truly do. It's one of the reasons that now as I get older, I don't really root for teams. I root for individual players. And I root for great teams, maybe like a Kansas City Chiefs team, because they don't come around very often. And I think now that we went from the Patriots dynasty to a little bit of Tom Brady at the end in Tampa, and now really the Chiefs dynasty, which is what it seems like it's going to be because they are going to win their third championship in a matter of 4 or 5 years this season. I really look at what Mahomes has done in the league, and it's undeniable. To me, Tom Brady is still the greatest player of all time. That cannot be debated quite yet. But Patrick Mahomes is absolutely the best player in NFL history, the best quarterback, the best individual player. And I know people will probably point to Dan Marino, who was a great quarterback, was a great thrower of the football. And some may even argue Steve Young or Joe Montana if you're from that era. And I know that some fans who didn't necessarily love Brady will argue that Peyton Manning was one of the best players in NFL history. To me, it is absolutely Patrick Mahomes. They always say, don't judge a fighter, don't judge a boxer at the end of their career. Don't judge Mahomes 10 years from now when the wheels are starting to fall apart and it feels like his best days are behind him. You judge these great players and these great talents when you're in the thick of it. We are in the thick of a Patrick Mahomes Chiefs dynasty run that genuinely I cannot believe that I am worthy enough to witness in my lifetime. We went from watching the Patriots dominate the NFL for 24 years to now getting another dynasty literally right after, on the heels of Brady retiring. We are getting Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs team and Andy Reid and Spags and Eric Bieniemy when he wasn't part of the team and Tyreek Hill at the start and now Isaiah Pacheco and even Kareem Hunt involved in the mix, who was a great player who unfortunately didn't get to be a part of this because of his own boneheaded decisions. So many different things have happened. So many changes to the Kansas City roster. These rosters have never quite looked exactly the same as they've gone evolving. But that is the epitome of a dynasty, a team that can win through changes, through adversity, and throughout the course of time. To me, Patrick Mahomes, what he has already accomplished, he is going to win his third Super Bowl. And to think that in just 6 years as a starter, he has been to 6 AFC championships, has been to 4 Super Bowls, and has won 2 of them, is going to win 3 of them. That, to me, screams best player of all time. There is no debate. When you watch Patrick Mahomes touch the ball yesterday and touch the ball 60 times a game, and the plays that he made specifically in the first half, I genuinely could not believe what I was watching. And I've said this a couple times in the show, and I said it at the end of last season when that whole Joe Burrow and Burrowhead conversation was coming up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes, anytime you give him an opportunity to do so, consistently proves that he is levels above other quarterbacks. And people always love to say, analysts, oh, this player is in a class of their own, or this team is in a class of their own. This Baltimore Ravens team is in a class of their own. They've blown out more teams than any other team in NFL history. This Buffalo Bills team, they dominate the box score. They are truly in a class of their own. Patrick Mahomes, anytime he is given an opportunity to do so, proves that he is in a class of his own. We enjoy watching Joe Burrow when he is healthy. We love Josh Allen when he plays his best football and non-turnover football. We love to watch Lamar Jackson just torch everybody in the field and create a human highlight reel every time he steps out onto the field. But as great as those guys are, they are not to the level of Patrick Mahomes. You can't say that. Mahomes consistently, I said this last week, Mahomes has this innate ability like a Nick Saban or like a Tom Brady where they are not an underdog often. And when they are, bet the house on them. I mean, Mahomes is now 10-1, previously 9-1 as an underdog in the NFL. He continues to prove that if you doubt me, I am going to punish you. And that's exactly what he did to this Baltimore Ravens team. Credit to the defense. Absolutely. Spags put out a great game plan. I'm not taking anything away from them. But when you watch Mahomes and certain plays that he made, there is not another player in NFL history that could make the throws, the plays, extend drives, extend plays in the ways that Patrick Mahomes can. He was phenomenal yesterday. And people will look at the box score and say it wasn't a 400-yard game and they didn't score 40 points and it wasn't pretty at the end there and they didn't score a single point in the second half. And in the end, it doesn't matter because people who just look at stats will always say that a guy like Tom Brady is better or greater, which he is right now. But you'll also point to other statistics and say, well, Lamar Jackson was the most valuable player in the NFL this year. He is going to win the MVP award. Lamar Jackson was not the most valuable player in the NFL this year. It was Patrick Mahomes. And if that voting was allowed to continue well into the postseason, literally everybody would be changing their mind and changing their votes to Patrick Mahomes. He was the most valuable player in the NFL this year. What he did in that first half, there is not a man on this planet, a woman on this planet, a player or athlete alive that could make the throws that he made, that could extend the plays in the ways that he did. He is absolutely phenomenal. I think it is fair to say that Tom Brady is still the greatest player and the greatest quarterback of all time. Absolutely. Greatness involves rings. It involves postseason success. And because of longevity and how long he played and how abundant his success was and the amount of rings and the amount of MVPs, Tom Brady still leads the GOAT conversation. But make no mistake, Patrick Mahomes is certainly on his heels in the GOAT conversation. He is already on pace to beat him in the GOAT conversation. And dare I say, he is already the best player in NFL history and the best quarterback in NFL history. Physically, talent-wise, throwing the football, there is not a player alive or not that could do what Patrick Mahomes can. Tom Brady was not a greater individual quarterback than Patrick Mahomes was. Tom Brady is the greater quarterback all time, absolutely, but he's not better than Mahomes was. At no point did we ever look at Brady and say he can literally take over a game. He was a surgeon. He put on clinics at the end of games, especially at the end of his career in New England and in Tampa when he would seemingly break down. He was able to methodically move the ball down the field in a way that no other player can. I don't want to take that away from him, and he was my favorite player to watch growing up. But Mahomes really does, and people are going to say you're glazing here. There is not a player, a quarterback, an NFL athlete with us, no longer with us, that could ever accomplish or do what Patrick Mahomes has been able to do as an individual talent. He is now 10-1 as an underdog. I absolutely believe that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in NFL history already. I don't think that's a debate. Last year when he won the Super Bowl, I came on this show and I told you that Monday, he is already a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is going to win his third championship. He is going to ride off into the sunset, and I can't wait to see what that game plays out like in Las Vegas. So after the clock struck 0 on the AFC Championship game and families and close friends were allowed to make their way onto the field, we got to see Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift meet up at center field in what was probably inevitable if the Chiefs made it this far and share a really nice moment, a hug, an embrace, a little kiss. And in my opinion, it was a really wholesome moment. I didn't think anything of it. I genuinely felt very happy for Travis Kelce in that moment, and of course Taylor Swift and whatnot. A lot of people on the internet were pissed about it, and this has been going on for quite some time, and I addressed it right when she went to the first Kansas City game, and I really didn't talk about it after that because I know that NFL fans don't love the topic, but I think we need to address it because there were fans after the fact that were going after her, and I think I haven't verified it yet what the fan was screaming, but Taylor Swift responded in a video to a fan after the game in the tunnel saying, "I didn't do anything." The rumor was that the fan either said something like, "Congratulations," or it was a fan screaming like, "Why did you ruin football?" I still haven't gotten the end result of that, but I've seen enough on Twitter and public response to think people didn't love that moment and that embrace between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift during that game. And in my opinion, it's like, guys, let's be honest here. Two things can be true. Is it a little bit too much sometimes? Yes. And I found moments yesterday where I did cringe, right? It is a football game. Ideally, she wouldn't be shown too much. In my opinion, they didn't show her too much during yesterday's game. Let's be honest here. Yesterday was not one of those broadcasts where they shoved Taylor Swift down everyone's throats. Not at all. In my opinion, they did a good job of balancing it out. They could have shown her way more. Do I cringe a little bit when I see some of the moments? For sure. Not in a bad way. Not in a disrespectful way. It's just like almost like you feel like you're seeing something that you're not supposed to be seeing. Like to me, it's a very private moment. That's the reason why I cringe. But it's not really their fault. To be honest, if you were to, and I don't want this to become a 10-minute rant on the show, but it might end up becoming that. When you look at the relationships in Hollywood and in the entertainment world over the past 2-3 years, and you look at all the tire fires and the dumpster fires and the breakups and the divorces and the situationships and the entanglements and the affairs, and you look at all the relationships in Hollywood over the past 2-3 years, and then you look at Taylor Swift and at Travis Kelce, I could argue that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship is more wholesome and is more healthy than any other celebrity relationship I've seen in a long time. They genuinely support each other. It seems like they love each other. It seems like a very healthy relationship. Travis made it a point to, in the middle of his season when he wasn't doing too well, to travel on a 13-hour flight to one of Taylor's shows. He was very supportive of her. She has in turn done the same thing. She has been to so many of his games this year when she really didn't need to. If she really wanted to stay out of the public eye, she probably could have stayed home. Instead, she made it a point to support him. Honestly, I think that's awesome. I think when I see guys getting pissed off about it, it's like, in a perfect world, I don't know, the audience here varies. It's my age. It's people who are much older. It's people who are middle-aged. I don't know if you have a wife, a girlfriend, if you're single like I am. Wouldn't you want to have a girlfriend or a partner or a wife who is as supportive of you and of your endeavors and of your job as Taylor Swift is of Travis Kelce? In my opinion, it's a great show of support. I think it's very wholesome. I don't mind it at all. I thought it was a really nice moment that got ruined by a lot of people out there. Believe it or not, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift haven't shoved their relationship down everybody's throats as much as they could have. People seem to think that this is like a plan or an operation or something like that. I don't think it's that at all. Taylor Swift, I actually looked at her Instagram this morning, 279 million followers, plenty of posts and promos for her concert and her tour and whatnot and her performances. And I think her last post was her birthday. Hasn't posted Travis Kelce yet. Travis Kelce, when you go to his social media, his page, his Twitter, the New Heights podcast, no mention of Taylor Swift really outside of 2 or 3 posts on New Heights over the last 9 months really. And one of those was the announcement that he was going to her concert. The other one was the fact that he met her. The other one was Jason Kelce literally last week saying that his wife told him to be on his best behavior when he took off his shirt because it was his first time meeting Taylor Swift. Otherwise, they really haven't shoved their relationship down our throats. I'm going to get off of this because this is a sports show. This is entertainment sort of leaking into sports, so I felt like I had to address it. But let's be real here. It is not that bad. Do I cringe a little bit because I feel like it should be a little bit more private? Yes, but that's not their fault. They have not really posted it or made it a point to shove it down everybody's throats. It is the networks and the TV crews that have been doing it for them. Not their fault. I don't think that they deserve the hate that they are getting. So let's talk about Lamar Jackson and this Baltimore Ravens team because I don't want to sound malicious when I say this. My reaction to Lamar and his performance is very similar to the way that I feel about Josh Allen, and I talked about it last week. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, some of the best quarterbacks in the league when they're playing their best football, when they're not turning the ball over, when they are playing the exciting, adrenaline-pumping football they can play, that they can possibly play, right? But when those guys face Patrick Mahomes in the postseason, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to cross that boundary. I don't say this with malicious intent. I want to say it again. I'm not a Lamar Jackson hater, and some of you may think that's the case because of the takes that I've posted over the past year or so. I made a take where I said I didn't believe that Lamar Jackson deserved the Deshaun Watson contract. I didn't think that he would, or not deserved, I didn't think he would get it because a bad front office, a bad organization like the Browns was not going to set precedent for new quarterback contracts. You're not going to follow the bad example or follow the leader when it comes to a bad leader. He was going to end up settling for something less. Ended up being the highest paid quarterback in the league at the time of signing. Good for him. I said that was perfectly acceptable. I just didn't think he'd get the Deshaun Watson money. Next thing, when Lamar Jackson was playing good football, but he had a lot of fumbles and a lot of interceptions, and he had more total turnovers than the other elite quarterbacks in the league, like a Jalen Hurts or like a Patrick Mahomes, and he had less touchdowns than them. That's why I said at the time, because of his turnover-prone nature and the style that he's playing right now and the stats at the time, he did not deserve MVP consideration. Now, obviously, he cleaned things up. Other great quarterbacks struggled. He should win the regular season MVP award that will be awarded just a week's time from now. I have no doubt about that. And the third knock on Lamar for me on this show, and the reason you may think I hate Lamar, is because I said that availability and his injuries were concerning to me. Outside of that, I think Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in this league. I stand by that. I've said that. Now, 5, 7, 2, where do you rank him? It all depends on how he's playing and how healthy he is. So, my thing is, you paid Odell Beckham Jr. $15 million for a one-year contract in the offseason. You paid Lamar. You gave him his money. You settled the debate as to whether or not you were committed to Lamar Jackson long-term. You gave Lamar Jackson the best defense of his career, the smartest play caller of his career. He had Mark Andrews. When Mark Andrews was out, he had Isaiah Likely who stepped up. He had Zay Flowers, a first-year player who truly burst onto the scene and was an immediate impact player. Very happy to see that from Zay Flowers. Now, he did have some very immature moments in yesterday's game, cutting his hand on the bench in frustration, the taunting call, which resulted in them being a little bit farther back, and ultimately maybe missing out on a touchdown that would have been very valuable in a game that ended 17-10. In the end, what Spags and the Chiefs defense dared Lamar Jackson to be and to do was they said, you know what? We're going to spy on you all game. We're going to bring the blitz. We are going to force you to be an elite distributor, an elite thrower of the football, an elite quarterback. And quarterback, even though the definition has changed over the past several years, still relies on your ability to throw the ball accurately, efficiently, and on time. And Lamar Jackson, for the life of him, could not do it yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs. And people are going to get mad and people are going to say you're hating Lamar Jackson. I do not think that is the case. Plenty of analysts out there have consistently told me over the past year, Lamar Jackson is an elite distributor of the football. And that may be true, but it wasn't true against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship when it mattered most. And he had all his pass catchers healthy, and he had his play caller, and he had the best defense he'd had at any point in his career, and it still wasn't enough. So in the end, I still believe Lamar Jackson is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not denying that. He will win the MVP in just 1 week's time from right now. But he is in a similar situation and a similar predicament and a similar problem that Josh Allen is in. You are in the AFC. You are one of the better quarterbacks in the league. You will make it into the postseason. You will win games in the regular season because whoever has the better quarterback usually wins, especially in the postseason. But you're going to have to go through Patrick Mahomes for the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't know of any quarterback who I can say wholeheartedly is going to be able to do that successfully. Only 2 have done it in the postseason. One of them is the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. The other is Joe Burrow, who felt like the reincarnation of Tom Brady when he was healthy and is what I would say is the last pure pocket passer in the NFL right now. And Joe Burrow's had multiple injuries and has a ton of injury concerns now. And I truly don't know, I can say this confidently, even if this ages like milk, I don't know if Joe Burrow will ever be back to the big game. I don't know if his injuries will continue to derail him over the course of his career. I don't know if he's just one of these players who is injury prone. And I think it's fair to at least float that idea out there. I'm not claiming he is. I'm simply making an observation, and I don't think that's crazy. I don't know what to tell these quarterbacks in the AFC, like a Josh Allen, like a Lamar Jackson, like a CJ Stroud, who I love, who I think had an excellent year, who I am a huge fan of moving forward. I don't know what to tell those guys and their head coaches and their teams about playing in the AFC because you're going to win games and you're going to make it into the postseason. But I don't know if you can say with 100% confidence, I'm going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. Because literally 2 people on the planet have done it as quarterbacks, which is the lead position in the NFL, despite what anybody may say. You're touching the ball 50, 60, 65 times in a game. You are going to dictate how that game plays out. And against Patrick Mahomes in a head-to-head matchup, I have seen the greatest quarterback of all time and one of the greatest single-season performances of all time by Joe Burrow as a quarterback. Those are the only 2 times I've seen Patrick Mahomes come up short in the postseason. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's going to be tough sledding for these AFC quarterbacks. I don't mean to knock them. It is just the reality. A 17-point comeback or a 17-point choke, depending on what side of the pendulum you were on in the NFC Championship game. In the end, it is who we thought it would be. The 49ers make it out of the NFC. They are going back to the big game, to the Super Bowl. I predicted they would be the NFC's champion before the season started, especially if they were healthy. That came to pass. It came to be true. I predicted, as you saw, the Chiefs would make it back to the big game. That one, I made that prediction in November after we saw some football teams play football and after we saw them and really who their cornerstones were, what their identity was. So in the end, you're welcome. You should have put a wager on it, I will say. Not encouraging it, but certainly, and looking back, could very well have been the plan or the route they should have taken. I was correct. But for those who are calling for Dan Campbell's job and who are upset with Dan Campbell, it is very obvious and very easy to say now in retrospect, take the points. In most situations, you should. But to the people who are so shocked and so outraged by Dan Campbell's decision not to take the points in yesterday's game, I would just ask you, honestly, not attacking you, maybe a little bit, did you watch the Detroit Lions this year? Have you watched the Detroit Lions at any point over the past 18 months? Because since the second half of last season, really, if you watch the Detroit Lions, a huge part of their identity is Dan Campbell as the head coach saying, no risk it, no biscuit. We are going to go for it. We're going to take the chance. We're going to take the gamble. And with the excellent offensive line present for the Detroit Lions and their excellent weapons and their pass catchers and their run game and Jared Goff being a really good distributor of the football and an excellent play caller and Ben Johnson, who's going to become a $10 million a year head coach in just a few weeks' time now and maybe months' time, yeah, that gamble's usually going to pay off. Unfortunately, it didn't against a really good, really sound, really mentally strong San Francisco 49ers team. In the end, Dan Campbell probably wishes he could have those moments back, as many head coaches would. But to say that Dan Campbell deserves to lose his job, or what was he doing, respectfully, I ask, have you watched the Detroit Lions at any point over the last 18 months? Because since the second half of last season, this is who the Detroit Lions have been. They like to take the chances. Dan Campbell specifically likes to take that gamble, and most of the time, it pays off. It didn't in the NFC Championship game. Fans can be upset, but that no risk it, no biscuit mentality was who the Lions were all year long. So I'm genuinely confused and shocked and wondering why fans are so upset with Dan Campbell and the Lions like you didn't see this coming. This is who the Lions are. This is who they've been all year. If they would have strayed away from that and lost, I would have said, you strayed away from your identity and what got you here. What were you doing? I would be upset at that point. But the Lions stuck to their guns, and Dan Campbell died on his sword of 2024 analytics-based, forward-facing football, offensively driven football. He didn't take the points. In the end, do you wish he would have if you're a Lions fan? Probably, absolutely. But that's not who the Lions were. That's not who Dan Campbell has been over the past 18 months. And you've got to live with that. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But the 49ers are going back to the big game, a Miami Super Bowl rematch. Very interesting to see how that will play out. So over the weekend, the Chicago Bears got into the NFL conversation mix on Saturday when they posted a highlight reel of Justin Fields and his best plays as a Chicago Bear from this season on their Twitter. And a lot of people started wondering, hey, does that mean they're going to bring back Justin Fields? Were they trying to test the waters? Were they trying to see what fans had to say about the entire situation? In my opinion, a lot of Justin Fields fans out there seem to be saying the same narrative, which is Chicago should keep Justin Fields, and Justin Fields deserves another shot. If you're a true Justin Fields fan, you don't know ball. You would want Justin Fields to get out of Chicago if you are a true Justin Fields fan. I do not understand Justin Fields fans begging and pleading the Chicago Bears organization, saying, please keep him. Please give him another year. What? I mean, let's take a look at this objectively. Justin Fields, it is in both parties' best interest, the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields, to say, we're going to move on. We are going to separate. It is in Justin Fields' best interest for the Chicago Bears to move on and draft Caleb Williams and trade him somewhere else. It really is. Justin Fields is 10-28 as a starter. A lot of people say, wins are not a quarterback stat. Well, then tell me why the best quarterbacks always seem to win. That is my rebuttal to that argument. It always will be until, I get new information. Maybe that changes over the course of my lifetime. That's how I feel about it now. Let's look at other quarterbacks who we believe are young, who are still at the beginning of their career, but who we can all acknowledge you've got to move on from them. It's time for a switch. Desmond Ridder is 8-9 as a starter in this league. Bailey Zappi is 4-4. Zach Wilson is 12-21. Aiden O'Connell is 5-5. Mac Jones is 18-24. Taylor Heineke is 13-15-1. That is all the record of all the quarterbacks I just named as a starter. Younger guys who have shown some, not even flashes of greatness, let's be honest, who have shown good football at times, but who we acknowledge are not necessarily franchise quarterbacks. And if they are, it's time to move on. It's time to switch. It's time to send them somewhere else. Justin Fields has a worse record than all of those guys. 10 wins, 28 losses as a starter. It is in Justin Fields' best interest for the Chicago Bears to say, Justin, we're moving on. We're going to draft Caleb, and we're going to send you off somewhere else. Ideally, the Falcons. I think the Falcons are an excellent destination for Justin Fields in an area in which he was very close to in college, Atlanta, playing for a team that has an excellent offensive line, an excellent defensive line, an excellent, very supportive run game with some nice pass catchers, not great, in Kyle Pitts and in Drake London. And I think Jonnu Smith is also on the roster. I don't know how long he's under contract for, though, I'll be honest. Some nice pass catchers, not special, but an excellent run game that you can lean on. And the Falcons, it seems like the approach that they're going to take is they are not going to hire Bill Belichick, which speaks volumes as to how smart Arthur Blank wants to build this organization. I think that is a brilliant move. I think Bill Belichick is old school. I think it's exactly the opposite of what Justin Fields would need. If they trade for a quarterback, because it seems like they're not going to draft one based on all the mocks out there, go out and trade for Justin Fields, support him with an excellent run game, an excellent offensive line, and a coach in Mike Vrabel who may very well be the perfect coach for that kind of system. Lean on the offensive line and on the run game and on your play in the trenches. Mike Vrabel, similar to Jim Harbaugh, will impose a culture of toughness. That's exactly what the Falcons need. If you do that, then Justin Fields, all he has to do is become an efficient passer. He doesn't have to be a volume thrower, which is the problem in Chicago. They are relying on Justin Fields to play hero ball every single day and twice on Sundays in Chicago. In Atlanta with the Falcons, and under Mike Vrabel potentially, we know who Mike Vrabel is. We know what he did with Derrick Henry. We know how he got into the postseason and how he won a postseason game with the Titans. Lean on the run game. Just tell your quarterback you're going to throw the ball 15, 18, 19 times a game, not more than 20 on most occasions. We're going to make you a quality passer, not a volume passer, not a volume thrower of the football. And that might actually work. And that might be exactly what Justin Fields needs to build up his confidence and to just go to a new place and figure out who he is as an NFL quarterback, because it's not going to happen in Chicago. Chicago, on the flip side, you draft Caleb Williams. You cannot say no to a generational quarterback talent, especially after it seems like his pro comp, Patrick Mahomes, continues to cook and is cooking right now. It is very hard to ignore Caleb Williams, who is on the doorstep of the NFL, and the fact that you have the opportunity to draft him. You bring him in. The knock on him this year was the fact that he played too much hero ball. Chicago, you need it. You need Caleb Williams to go in there and play hero ball, because it is literally the only way that a quarterback is going to save your franchise. I think it's in both parties' best interest to split. I think if you're a true fan of Justin Fields, you will listen to what I'm saying objectively. You will not scream. You will not foam at the mouth. You're not going to get pissed off like a lot of you do on Twitter. And you're going to say, man, maybe it isn't Justin Fields' best interest to move on and to be traded away and to get a fresh start somewhere else with a better head coach, a better roster, and a more supportive group of talent who can really help him lean into his skills as a dual threat quarterback and as a run first team. That's all I have to say on that. We were blessed this weekend, not just by great football, but by great basketball too. I mean, Rivals Weekend gave us some excellent matchups. I don't know if it was Rivals Week or weekend. I was watching Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was watching those games. Believe me, I was locked in. The one that, of course, takes the cake as the instant classic is the Lakers-Warriors, LeBron versus Steph, on a night where I genuinely thought these guys could, if they wanted to, take the night off. They could say, we're going to go 50%. They ended up going full throttle, double overtime, instant classic, one of the best games in NBA memory recently. And it points out a huge problem with the NBA for me when you look especially at Patrick Mahomes and what he accomplished on Sunday. They will never say it, but Adam Silver and the NBA, in my opinion, they've got to be envious of what the NFL and Roger Goodell have going. Their greatest star, the greatest player of all time, Tom Brady, retired, and waiting in the wings was Patrick Mahomes, ready to take the mantle, ready to carry the league into the next 10 years, the next decade, maybe even 2. The NBA, you watch LeBron, you watch Steph, you watch another instant classic, one that my kids and my kids' kids will remember, and one that will be replayed for years, even though it's just a regular season matchup. They make it feel so much more special, and they take it so much more seriously than everybody else does. The league, the NBA, has never been more talented. I'm not denying that. So many great players, so many international stars, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic, so many young developing stars who really haven't had a chance to shine yet, like Chet and Shai, and guys who are on the come up right. But none of those guys are head and shoulders above the rest of the league the way that Mahomes is. I have not seen someone who I can truly say, Giannis has won a title. Jokic has won a title. Embiid might win MVP this year and could be in contention for a title this year. I don't know. But it doesn't feel the same when you look at the NBA and you watch. When LeBron and Steph retire, which LeBron has 2, maybe 3 years max left in the NBA, and Steph has less than 5 years left in the league, the NBA should be worried about who is going to take the mantle as the superstar of the league. Because the league has never been more talented. I'm not denying that. But who is the guy who you can say confidently is head and shoulders above everybody else, is a true superstar, gets 100 million people tuning into a game? And I know it's different between football and basketball, and there's more games in basketball, and they're never going to draw 100 million people watching a single game, at least, never, not even internationally. But who is that star who is going to take the mantle as the next guy in the NBA? Because I really don't see it. I see a lot of really talented players. I see a lot of guys who will compete for a long time and some great rivalries being built up and some great international players and some great young American players. I don't see a superstar who is head and shoulders above everybody else. I don't see it. And the NBA should be worried because the NFL found their guy immediately, and they are so lucky that they did. They found Mahomes waiting in the wings, and he took over. He never missed a beat. He was winning from day one. I don't see that guy in the NBA. And it's just another reason why the NFL, in my opinion, even if the NBA dominates TikTok and dominates Twitter and dominates social, the NFL is a superior league. Their teams are worth more. They draw more ratings. They get more ad revenue. They are more popular. In America, at least. NBA, they can have the international title. Who is going to be the international title holder? Who is going to be the superstar of tomorrow? I don't know who it is. I don't know if the NBA can say with absolute certainty that they've got someone who they think can take over that mantle. I think it's multiple players, but I don't think it's one star like a LeBron, like a Michael, or like a Steph. And that's unfortunate because it is going to hurt the brand of basketball, I think, long term. I understand that international players now play a huge role in the game. I don't mind that at all. They're a very fun watch. Giannis, Embiid, Nikola Jokic. Jokic already has a ring. Embiid might win an MVP this year. Giannis already has a ring. Jokic might already have a case as one of the most dominant players in NBA history. I get it. But not being able to say you have one or two singular superstars who are head and shoulders above everybody else, no matter how young or old they are, yeah, it's a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage from a marketing perspective, from an advertising perspective, from a fan and engagement perspective. They don't have what the NFL has, which is crazy to say when the NFL has so many players on the roster, and it's always felt like the NBA could so much such a much easier way. They could have a singular superstar than the NFL. It doesn't feel like that right now. I don't know what the approach is. I don't know what happens next, but NFL's in a good spot. NBA might be on the rocks. I'm cooking today. I don't know how well I'm doing or not. That's up for you guys to decide that metric, but I'm talking about a lot today. Normally, we only discuss 3-4 stories on the show. Today, we've done what, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we've got an interview coming up with FIU baseball's biggest star, Ryne Guida, who I am very excited to introduce you guys to. It's a great interview on deck. Can't wait to talk to him. I will say, I'm going to discuss why that is important in a little bit, but just give me a second here. Let's talk about some news that I saw come in on Twitter literally when I started recording this, and it's late. This show, to be honest, this will probably be out at 11 o'clock at night because I'm recording this. It's 2:30. It's going to take a long time to download, to premiere, and whatnot. This one's going to go out late, so I appreciate you for tuning in if you have done so already. But moving on, Kirk Cousins will apparently, reportedly, demand $45 million a year from whatever team he decides to go to as a free agent. And I think a year ago, year one of doing this show, Benjamin would have probably overreacted and said, "What? What are you talking about?" And maybe I shouldn't do the squeaky voice because I wasn't that much younger, but I was a year younger. That was stupid. But I would have probably overreacted then. I will say, though, I made this take last week about Baker Mayfield, and it got hot on social. It had like 6,000 views in one day on TikTok. Baker Mayfield is going to make $45 million a year this offseason. That's what his contract's going to be. And people were upset, and they were pissed, and they just couldn't wrap their mind around it. Guys, the league has never made more money. The TV contracts have never been more valuable. Front offices have never understood the value of a quarterback and have never believed that they were more valuable than they are today. A quarterback, good or bad, is going to touch the ball 50 to 60 times a game. They are going to dictate whether you win or lose. You can lose a linebacker due to injury. You can lose a safety for a few games. Not to say those guys aren't important, but they are not as impactful as a quarterback. A quarterback missing time, that's a make or break situation for most teams out there, especially if you have a good one and you don't have a great backup. Thank God for guys like Jake Browning who are waiting in the wings, for example, in Cincinnati. But even then, didn't make it into the postseason. That's a perfect example. Daniel Jones got paid $40 million a year last year. $40 million a year, total $160, right? That is the going rate for non-elite quarterbacks in the NFL now. And you may overreact to that and you may think it's an obscene amount of money, which it is. But the fact of the matter is quarterbacks never been more valuable. Their agents have never had more leverage than they do today. Leagues now know that as well. Front offices now know that as well. Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, the non-elite quarterbacks, the non-top fives, the non-Mahomes, Allens, Lamars, those guys, once you get out of that class, anybody else who is a bridge starter or a veteran is going to demand $40 million a year. The league has changed. We're not paying Tom Brady $25 million a year anymore or $15. That doesn't exist anymore. Quarterbacks have now, they will take up a decent portion of your cap, and $45 million a year is absolutely acceptable for Kirk Cousins. And for those who say Kirk Cousins doesn't deserve $45 million a year, get the word deserve out of your vocabulary. When it comes to business, when it comes to sports contracts and deals, when it comes to negotiations in your own work life, get the word deserve out of your vocabulary. Deserve is a dangerous word. You will suffer a lot less heartbreak in the business world if you get away from the word deserve. What are you worth? The market will dictate that. And I think when you look at Kirk Cousins, it's undeniable. Stats-wise, the numbers he's put up, the tape, call him a game manager. Game managers are worth $45 million a year now in 2024. That's just the reality of the situation. Obviously, I apologize. This was not a very well thought out take, but I saw the notification, wanted to address it. In my opinion, you know what I'm trying to say here. That's the going rate for these guys. Get the word deserve out of your vocabulary. You will suffer a lot less in the business world, in negotiations, if you get away from that word. I did a long time ago, and I found that my life is a lot more, my work life is a lot more enjoyable now that I stay away from that word. Perform, and the market will dictate what you are worth. In any facet of life, in any business, broadcasting, as an athlete, as a finance major coming out of school, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a 9-to-5 employee, I don't want to get too far off topic here. Any walk of life, an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, the market will dictate what you are worth based on how you perform. How you perform is up to you. Kirk Cousins has performed well. He is going to make $45 million a year for the next 2-3 years, depending on where he goes. That remains to be seen. I don't think it's that crazy, though. So for those of you who follow me on social media, some of you don't, so I understand if you haven't seen it yet, but I've got some very exciting and special news to share. Starting this February, I'm going to have the incredible opportunity to start commentating, broadcasting, and serving as a host for ESPN Plus broadcasts at my own school right now, my alma mater, FIU, for all of their sporting events. And I can't wait to start with one of my favorite sports, the sport that really got me into sports broadcasting, which is baseball. And I thought, in preparation for learning more about FIU baseball and all there is to know about the team and the coaching staff and everything FIU baseball, why not talk to the guy who was the biggest star on the team last year? And he's too humble to say it, so I will gloat and brag on his behalf. Let's read off some of his stats here, and this is long, so I will not read the entire page. But played and started in all 55 games as FIU's designated hitter in 2023. Finished his first season with the Panthers with a 366 average, 78 hits, 50 RBIs, all team highs. His average finished third best in Conference USA. His 78 hits were fourth best. He earned second team All-Conference USA's honors and closed out the regular season on a 5-game hit streak. Ladies and gentlemen, his resume just keeps on getting longer and longer and longer, and it is going to get even better and better and better during the course of this season. Let me welcome in FIU's first baseman and future professional baseball player, Ryne Guida. Ryne, it is so awesome to have you on the show today. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having me, Ben.
I am doing real well, and I'm excited. Tell me, I see the flag in the background. Feels like you're a little bit relaxed. Obviously, full transparency to the audience. We are recording this on Thursday afternoon because Ryne is a college athlete, so he's got a real busy schedule. What does your day-to-day look like, especially with the season getting closer and closer?
So, yeah, we're actually about to start up our team practice segment. We usually get to the field around 12 o'clock for early work. Then we'll have our 1 o'clock dugout meeting. We'll train till about 3:30, and then we'll head over to our lifts at 4. And then our usual baseball schedule consists of a Tuesday or Wednesday midweek, along with your Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend set. So definitely getting busy around here, and it's been exciting, and can't wait for the season.
What's the feeling like? I'm going to be having the honor to call one of the first games opening weekend against LIU. And correct me if I'm wrong, but based on my initial research, it doesn't seem like you guys played LIU last year and maybe even ever. So are they a new opponent? What do you know about them? What stands out?
I mean, I know they're from up north. They're from Brooklyn. I know they're in either the Colonial, one of those conferences up there. But, they're coming into town. I've never played them in my career, so it'd be cool to see them. And I know it's probably going to be one of their first times they're getting outside, so it should be a good one.
I can't wait. I really am excited. I'm sure you are too to get this season started. It's felt like a long off season. I think your journey to getting to FIU is so interesting to me because it's not the conventional straight out of high school, straight to your university or destination of choice. Tell me, through that whole rigmarole, how did you find your way at FIU and what's it been like?
It's honestly been awesome. So I started at Stetson my freshman year, had a good year there, and then decided to go take the junior college route. Wanted to see, where my opportunities could lay me. Had a good year at junior college, and then I was contacted by FIU right around like the spring of like my sophomore year in JUCO, and it went well. And I definitely liked what it had to offer, and the fact that I got to stay close to home. So I decided to come here. And then when the staff hired Rich as the head coach, and they brought in Brian Drallman and Frank Navarrete, and the pitching coach at the time was Sean Thompson. I was very excited with their vision of the program and was very pumped to see where the program's been going, and it's headed in the right direction. So it's been a great year, and I'm excited for my second year here.
It's definitely a unique situation because you had already we had a great conversation last week at the facility. You graciously gave me a tour, which I do really appreciate, and I told you that then. But you told me very unique circumstances, right? You had already sort of made, maybe not necessarily your commitment, but your intention known to FIU. Yeah, I'd like to be a part of your baseball team. And then you find out after the fact about the coaching change. Tell me what that process was like. You find out about Coach Rich Whitten, who was eventually brought in. What did you like about him from day one? Obviously, college sports in general, so much uncertainty surrounding coaches at this level because they can really come and go depending on who the athletic director is, where they get their opportunities. What stood out about Coach Whitten, and what made you want to say, you know what, in spite of the fact that it's a little bit different than I thought it would be, I still want to go to FIU?
Sure, great question. I would say that I'll give you a little bit of background with it. So I remember I was playing a summer ball game up in Percival, and I just heard from one of my buddies that also transferred from BCU, Brendan Rooney, that Rich Whitten had taken the job at FIU. So I'm like, oh, cool, new head coach, whatever. And then he ended up calling me pretty much a couple days after. And once I heard his enthusiasm on the phone and his vision for the program, I'm like, I'm all in, man. I can't wait to help you rebuild this. So I was ecstatic and excited to be a part of that opportunity.
For sure. And then obviously that excitement carries on over into the year. But you were pretty honest with me. And you look at the box score, you look at the wins and losses, and it's hard not to observe, like I told you, there was definitely some adversity during last year's season. You guys encountered it multiple times. You told me a really cool story about a turning point in the year, and I would like you to sort of retell it where you guys were down early in a game, felt like it was an almost insurmountable lead by most accounts, but you guys just had so much faith in each other and in what you guys had built that you ended up turning it around into one of these really fairy tale-like games. What was that game like? What do you remember? And what do you think is that energy, that aura, and that chemistry that you guys have with each other that allowed you guys to know we're not out of these games until the game is over?
Exactly. I would say that the Harvard series really kind of gave us a gut check. We had a lot of games where they were back and forth, a lot of crazy scoring games, not your traditional kind of baseball, like the way it usually goes. We would score 5, they'd score 6. But the game you're specifically talking about was the Marist series. We were down 9 and going into the third inning, and I remember Wick got the boys to go. I remember I was talking to some of the guys. I'm like, hey, look, even though we're down 9, let's just chip away. We were able to come back and win that game. I believe it was 13 or 14. I know we won by 1. I think it was like 15-4, some crazy score. But after that moment, I think that was our 10th game, like our win streak. And we just learned that no matter what happened, we were able to put it together and find a way to win those games. Even when it gets gritty or even when it gets a little weird, that's the game. Ideally you want to win those 5-2 games, but sometimes you get in the slugfest. You got to learn how to find a way to slug your way through it.
So one of the things that you told me compared to last season was definitely going to be an advantage, or at least different, was this added depth or this seemingly new depth to the bullpen, right? You guys, it feels like you have more pitchers this year, more arms. Tell me, as a player on the roster, as someone who is one of the bigger bats on the team, what kind of an advantage is it to have great pitchers and multiple great pitchers in your bullpen. And what does it do for your mindset going into a game?
For sure. I would say that, getting a chance to face Jackson Ritchie, a guy that has really good spin on the fastball, a guy like Ryne Guida has an excellent breaking ball. I mean, we have guys like Bryce Green that are sidearm guys. We have guys like Joel Pinheiro that can throw 4 or 5 pitches for strikes. I mean, the list goes down. Just overall to see the different variety of arms, it's just tremendous for us to then see different kind of arms we're going to see in the spring, and it's a very good preparation. And I do believe our staff this year is deeper than last year, so it should help us a lot as far as maybe winning those middle third innings where maybe sometimes we'd have to score a couple extra or hope a lead was held. But overall, I like where the pitching's trending, and I know the guys can definitely speak for the same as well.
This team has obviously experienced a significant amount of turnover in the last 2-3 years, and this roster is different from last year's. Are there, you look at the roster, so many new young guys. Is there anyone who on the practice field, in the bullpen, and drills in the offseason has stuck out to you as those guys are going to be the stars of tomorrow, or maybe could they be the stars of today? Could they make an immediate impact? Does anyone stand out to you?
I would definitely say on the pitching side, I would say Tristan Dietrich, of course, he's drafted by the Marlins. I've gotten a chance to face him. The stuff's there. I think that there's a lot of promise there. I'm excited for what he's going to have in store for us. Jacob McKenzie, freshman catcher, he's going to have the opportunity to, be able to mentor one of my buddy Runes and Ronnie Medina, who are 2 very good catchers, along with Nelson Rivera, who's a transfer from USF. So just the amount of knowledge he can acquire, that's a guy to keep an eye on for sure. I'd say on the infielder side, Sammy Fisher, he's another guy I'm really excited about. Big time bat, good defender at third. I think he has a lot to learn, but he's definitely been adapting the college game well and also put up some really good at bats against some of our better arms. So those are 3 for sure. I'd say out of the bullpen, Alvin Alline's one I'm kind of, really hyped up for. Every time I see him, I keep telling him he keeps getting bigger, he's getting stronger, he's throwing the ball well. And overall, I think that, there's many other guys. Roy Quevedo, he's a sophomore. He made the all-conference team last year. The future of this program is bright. And I'm excited, once we hand the torch to them next year, I have a feeling they're going to lead it in the right direction.
Feels like there's a little bit more stability in the program at this point in time than there was a year ago. Obviously, Coach Witten now being there a full year really has a chance to really not impose, but solidify his identity when it comes to what he wants the team to be built on. What's his message been this offseason? What have been his words to you guys? What is the mantra that you guys want to live by this year?
I would say definitely if you ask anybody on our team, it'd probably be grit, to be able to win any sort of game, especially when adversity hits, to be able to punch it right in the back and get back up and continue to fight because, Conference USA is a tough conference. You play the DBUs, you play the Western Kentuckys, now we got Liberty in the conference and New Mexico State. There's no easy games in our conference. And what you have to learn is that some games are going to be pitchers' duels and then some games you have to lean more on the hitters. So just making sure the team stays collectively together, especially when we get into conference play, like the non-conference series, will definitely help for that.
As one of the better, for sure, as one of the better players on the team, people are always going to look to you as a leader. Now, there's obviously a lot of different leadership styles out there. What kind of a leader would you say that you are?
I would definitely say I'm more of a quiet leader. I'm not really the one to give a speech or be super rah-rah. There's definitely a need for that, and those guys are definitely important. But for me, I try to just kind of keep my head down, try to attack my work as hard as I can, try to set an example in the game, try to be as strong as I can and be there for my team anytime I can be.
Who are the guys in the locker room, I wonder? And obviously, you never want to ask this question preseason, but it is inevitable. When you do encounter a rough patch in the middle of the season, maybe a little bit of adversity, maybe potentially a losing streak, who do you think or who do you know are going to be the guys in the locker room who can ease that tension, maybe the class clowns, the guys who make everybody feel a little bit better and more loose, which is what you're going to need to get that win streak back and turn it around?
For sure. I would definitely say Jackson Ritchie, Brendan Rooney, Cabarcas, just the guys that have been here longer, or even Dookie, just guys that understand they've been through the good, the bad, the ugly, and they're able just to get guys to calm down. The inevitable is you're going to have adversity. Brothers are going to fight. Guys are going to get a little bit upset and pissed off. But the reality is we are a team. I will say we're a very closely knit group as far as if there's ever a disagreement, it usually gets handled pretty quickly. And for the most part, guys don't hold grudges because we have to be able to fight all on the same side of the road. So that's something I will say team culture wise, I'm really happy about. And I think that we've taken tremendous steps forward in that aspect as well, too.
Sometimes it's hard when you're in the middle of a season that maybe is not going the ideal route or in the way that you'd like it to go. But a lot of times people, including myself, broadcasters always say a team is what their record says they are. Now, obviously, over the past couple of years, you guys have struggled maybe overall record-wise, within the conference, overall play, on the road. Obviously, second year under Coach Witten. Do you think that there is reason for fans to start believing that maybe record-wise, big picture, by the end of the year, there will be some improvement to that number, and maybe instead of finishing second to last in Conference USA, FIU can maybe move up the ranks? How realistic is that?
I'd say it's extremely realistic. I think there's a belief in the locker room this year, especially, that coach has been able to recruit a lot more guys. There are a lot of guys that have been here for a while, so he has a lot more opportunities, to get guys on scholarship, get guys he's needed. He took the job later. I thought he did a tremendous job last year, considering he took the job very late, and I think he did a great job getting a ton out of the guys who were previous here. I was very happy to get a chance to play with those guys too, because those guys are still my teammates. We still all stay in touch, which is great, but with this group this year, I think like I said, there's a belief, there's the ability that we know that we can get it done. We're in the middle of the conference team right now, and we know we can essentially make a run for conference. It is realistic for us to make conference run this year.
Every team faces challenges over the course of the year. What are some challenges that you guys very outspokenly maybe said this offseason, and you put it out there into the ether and you said, this was hard for us last year. What are we going to do to change it around? Was it errors? Was it in-game situations? Was it preparation? Was there anything that stood out that you guys really made it a point to say it out loud and attack it this offseason?
I would definitely say just experience. There was a lot of turnover, like you said earlier. So I think it's just understanding the systems. I think the guys that are able to return are guys that, they have eligibility, but, they understand Witten systems. And same with the guys he brought in, for example, like Jeff LaCory, Andre Martinez, Keyshawn Frett, Brylan West, just guys that Witt and Geralman and the staff are really happy to bring in. I think they've been able to adjust to the style well, and I think they're going to really pay dividends for us, just to get more and more guys that Coach Witten has been able to bring in. So that, I think, to all the fans of FIU, the baseball program, that's the difference, is he has the group that he's been able to fully recruit, and he finally had a year's worth of development with the guys that have already been in the program.
That sounds awesome, and it definitely does give a lot of fans out there hope and excitement for this season. Team goals, what are they? Have you guys kind of outspokenly said, hey, we want to accomplish this year. This is how we're going to do it. Anything on the radar for this team?
I mean, realistically, every college baseball program in America wants to make it to Omaha. I think that our mentality is we're going to take it one step at a time. The first step is conference. And, performing well in conference, ideally, we're going to probably need to win the conference to continue to play, which, once again, I think if we get hot, anything can happen. I trust the group we got. After that is, making a regional. I know the program hasn't made a regional in a while. And then, making a super in Omaha. But you have, the biggest thing that Witt and the staff says is you attack everything one step at a time. You have to get to conference. You have to be all set up. And you have to continue to make those quick and slow adjustments as well. You have to take it one step at a time. You can't look too far out. Because if you do, they'll start driving you crazy and you're checking out of town scores. The biggest thing that he always told us is control what you can control. And what you control is your attitude, your effort, your preparation. Those are things that I think the guys understand and have been able to adapt to well.
Personally, when I spoke to you last week, I could just tell you love the sport of baseball. You've been playing it for a long time. Can you tell me, what is it that made you fall in love with baseball? Is there a memory? Is there a game? Is there a player that made you realize you wanted to do this for the rest of your life?
I would definitely say when I was younger, growing up throwing the ball around my dad, going to hit BP, the friendships you make, baseball is like one big environment. It's like one big family. As you play the game, you get to know so many cool people. You get to meet so many like cool coaches, cool players, make relationships. That to me, just the network of it. I'd say network's probably the better word for it. It's just something you have for the rest of your life. It's something that I enjoy, and it's something that I'll continue to strive forward and keep having fun doing, because it's something that anytime that you treat baseball as a job and it's not a game, that you're not doing it for the right reason. You have to have fun while doing it.
And speaking of having fun, one of the best and most heartwarming stories that you told me last week was about the initiatives that the team does off the field and really when they get the community engaged. Can you tell me about some of those initiatives and how they make you feel, and what exactly is it that compels you to take part in these things?
For sure. So our FIU baseball team this fall as a team, we all kind of got together with Coach Witt, and we decided to go help out the Miracle League in Tamiami. That was something that was a very cool experience. It was something that A, it's great for the community, and B, it spreads the love of baseball. Like I feel like to learn the game, you have to be loved through it with somebody else to then understand how to appreciate it. So it was very cool to go out there and play with the different special needs kids and also the adults and, play catch with them, watch them hit, car them around the bases, run with them around the bases. Just the overall compassion you feel when you're there is awesome. It's second to none.
The childlike joy of baseball is one of the best parts about it, and some of the most successful teams always say they try to maintain that over the course of the year, which brings me to this question. Game day rituals. What kind of rituals do you have? Anything fun? Any pregame meals? What is it that you like to do on the day of a game?
So in the mornings, usually for a game, unless we're obviously going out of town, regular morning home game or regular night home game, I'll go to Isla Canarias down over a little bit. It's like 10 minutes west. They always have really good breakfast there. It's kind of a way for me to decompress, sip on some coffee, check my Twitter, catch up, talk to people, whatever. And then I'll kind of get back, relax, get over to the field early, get my body stretched out, go through my early work routine. Then they'll jump into our VP segment where we'll hit, throw, I'll get our ground balls, and then it's game time. So really for me, it's just I like to get a breakfast, get my body moving, get some good calories, some good nutrients, just so I'm able to keep that stamina and strength through the whole day.
Clearly, those game day rituals worked because last year you had an incredible season. And I think looking forward, it's very easy to get caught up and move ahead. But when I spoke to you, you really seemed like you were compartmentalizing it well. You knew what you had to accomplish this season. You know that the conversations about potentially being a professional baseball player will take place. Tell me, though, let's cheat a little bit here and let's look forward. What are some of those conversations that you've had? Is it a realistic goal that you may very well become a professional baseball player in just a year and a half time?
Absolutely. I have a shout out to Premier Talent Sports Entertainment, PTSD. That's the agents I've been working with. They have excellent advisement. They are able to reach out to the teams. I get some of the feedback, and overall, it's been very good, and the teams are happy. I just have to go out there and have fun and play my game. The best part of it is they take care of all the stuff off the field. I have to worry about playing on the field. And that's something that I think for some people, they try, the idea of getting to play at the next level can sometimes be a little bit daunting, and it can sometimes, mess with their concentration on the field. But for me, it's something, I've, growing up in South Florida, you play against guys like Andy Painter and Kobe Mayo and Jimmy Manning, name a few have been picked up the last few years. And you learn to play in those kind of environments. You play at Jupiter when you're 17, there's always pro scouts. Like for me, it's just another game. Like they're there, they're going to be there. They know who you are. It's just going out there and playing. In the end, you're playing, you're having fun. Good things will happen.
If a team does make the very wise decision to make you a part of their roster in about a year and a half, whatever the timeline is, what kind of a player are they getting?
They're getting a guy that wants to win them a World Series. They're getting a guy that's committed to the process. They're getting a guy that's going to bring 110% energy every single day. And I'm going to do everything in my power to keep continuing to push their brand forward. And also, continue to help them at every single level that I get the opportunity to play at.
Ryne, I appreciate your time. Best of luck this season. I'm going to have so much fun calling your guys' games. It is going to be so exciting to watch from the booth, and I really do wish you guys the best of luck. I can't wait to see how you guys end up this season.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
With that is all for this week's episode of The Benjamin Cure Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I cannot wait to be back next week. We had a full packed episode today. This one's probably going to go out pretty late if I had to take a guess. It's going to take a while for all these files to download, but once it does, it's going to be out. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you tuning in. Leave a comment, leave a like. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.